Hi, and welcome to Club Treasurer Education Training. My name is Meredith Taylor, and I am the Education and Training Specialist with Kiwanis International. And today I'm going to walk you through your roles and responsibilities as a Club Treasurer. I'm also joined with past International President and Leadership Development Coordinator for the Michigan District, Sue Petrisin. And we will be here to also answer your questions and make sure that you have a better understanding of what the foundational roles and expectations are for you as a club treasurer. Thanks for making this commitment and for being a leader in your club. We really, truly appreciate it. So today we'll talk about a variety of different topics, including your job description, talk about member dues and what's included, how you bill your members, the invoicing process, your club accounts, budgeting, what the Children's Fund will offer in terms of support and help with your club foundation if you have one. And then we will wrap up with some US only club information. So to my Western Canada and Eastern Canada and the Caribbean friends, I apologize, but we will touch on that today. A few housekeeping notes also. If you have any insights and examples or questions to share with us, please use the question feature on GoToMeeting. We're not quite sure why the chat feature is not working, but the question feature works just great. And Sue and I will be able to see those as they pop in real time. We also have a brand new version of the leadership guide. We're really, really excited about this. You are able to download a copy at kiwanis.org/leadership guide, or on the right-hand side in GoToWebinar, there is a handouts tab, and there's a copy there that you can click on and download. You do not need to have this in front of you tonight, though. You might find it helpful, especially as you plan for the future, but any references to the workbook will be put on the screen tonight. You might want a pen and paper, though, to take some of your own notes. Sue and I both are experiencing the same thing. We are facing some severe weather in our immediate areas. So if you lose one or both of us, we will do our best to get back on as quickly as we can. Mother Nature just might have other plans for a minute. So far so good, but just to be open and honest from the get-go. Our goal today is going to be to prepare you to become a better club treasurer, and that's going to be done through maintaining ethical stewardship, being a clear communicator, and maintaining that excellent organization that will be so critical in order to be successful. So I'm going to go ahead and hide my camera. Sue, it's up to you if you want to hide yours. And we're going to listen. And we're going to listen to some words from International President-elect Art Riley, who's also going to take office on October 1st when you do.
Thank you for stepping up to become a leader in Kiwanis. Your leadership not only makes a difference to club members, it makes a difference in the lives of children across the world. As you take on your new role, I hope you will take advantage of all the online modules and classroom learning that has been developed for you. We've worked hard to make sure you have what you need. I also hope you will take advantage of the strong mentors, coaches, and Kiwanians who surround you, and will encourage them to mentor and develop strong leaders in our clubs and districts. The future of Kiwanis and our dedication to the world's children depends on our ability to inspire and lift one another up so we can deliver our best to those who have trusted us to lead. I look forward to working with passionate, dedicated, and well-trained leaders this year in Kiwanis. Kids need Kiwanis, and Kiwanis needs you.
As you can see, next year is going to be great, and we're really excited that you have made the commitment to be part of it. So let's start pretty basically. What are your expectations for today's training? What are you hoping to get out of this hour-long informational training session? You're welcome to submit them through the questions feature, and I'll share them with the group. If you're not comfortable, that's also totally fine. Feel free to just jot those down to keep in the back of your mind as we talk through a variety of different topics. I'll share my expectations for you all today is that you're going to have a good foundational understanding of what your roles and responsibilities are as a club treasurer, and that you know what you need to do in order to be successful. Valerie says that she wants to learn how to be a better trainer for club treasurers in new clubs, and that is so important because there are so many different things that make up your roles and your responsibilities. One of the to really though understand what your roles are, you need to know that we have 4 measurable outcomes that we'll look at to see, were you successful? So next September, next October, this is how you can measure your success. Were there appropriate expenses in your club accounts, and were those all documented? Did you complete the dues process on time and without financial penalty? Did you have a successful annual audit? And were you in compliance with both local and Kiwanis International policies? These are kind of the 4 big things to keep in mind throughout your year as treasurer and as you prepare to become a treasurer. So in order to figure out where you fit in this big piece of Kiwanis, really, what is Kiwanis? We know that we are an international service organization. We're made up of clubs and members, and we have a great portfolio of partners. We're all dedicated to improving the lives of children, one community at a time. But did you know that there's over 550,000 members from K-Kids to Kiwanis in more than 80 countries? Kids need Kiwanis, and for more than a century, Kiwanis has provided opportunities for children to be curious, safe, and healthy, regardless of their community. We also have 3 statements that are very important to our organization. We have our motto, which is serving the children of the world, and you're probably very familiar with this. We also have a defining statement and a vision statement. These three statements together really encompass what we do as Kiwanians. We're generous with our time, we're creative with our ideas, we're passionate about making a difference. And importantly, we have a lot of fun along the way. Kiwanis is also founded on 6 objects that guide our organization. They act as our values and our core beliefs. These were approved nearly 100 years ago, back in the 1924 Kiwanis International Convention, back in Denver, Colorado, and they have not changed since their initial inception. The framework for our organization comes from our strategic plan. Consider this the roadmap for KI for us to achieve our goals. It's broken into 5 pillars, and as club treasurer, our financial viability pillar is probably most important to you. KI strategic plan also is set as a framework to guide all of our clubs to create their own strategic plans. Your club should have a strategic plan in place, and as a club leader, whether existing or incoming, you should be familiar with it. It's important to revisit and revise your club's strategic plan over time. Remember that it's a group effort to create and implement and shouldn't be left to one person. Your fellow club officers, your board of directors, and a few committed members should work together to really create a strategic plan or update your current one to help your club thrive for years to come. You can use the same 5 pillars as the basis for your club strategic plan and develop strategies in a plan of attack for each of the pillars and how you'll accomplish your goals. There's a template for creating this in the leadership guide on pages 6 and 7. You could also download it from our website, or you can create your own. As a club treasurer, you're also going to have a special relationship with the Children's Fund. You will help your clubs support them, and they will help support you. The Children's Fund is exceptionally grateful for the support of Kiwanians. Your generosity helps children in many places in many different ways. Kids need Kiwanis, and the Children's Fund helps you reach them. They amplify your impact in communities around the world. They work to provide grants for our service leadership programs, for our clubs in our districts, for their service projects, for disaster relief, and the elimination of maternal and neonatal tetanus and iodine deficiency disorder. The Children's Fund holds a similar role to that of any other community foundation. They raise funds from Kiwanians and grant them to the projects that Kiwanians are passionate about. They also provide services to their donors and resources to other nonprofits within the Kiwaniverse. They are also here to provide resources for you and your club, from fundraising tips, club foundation support, guiding you through grant programs, and offer speakers and presentations. We'll discuss your relationship with them as a treasurer a little bit more in depth in a bit. If you've been in Kiwanis for the last few years, you're also probably familiar with the Eliminate project. As of today, MNT has been eliminated in 27 countries since Kiwanis joined UNICEF back in 2010. We've raised nearly $87 million to fight MNT. Kiwanis will continue working towards the elimination of MNT for years to come. Your continued support is critical to fulfilling the pledges made by clubs and individuals over the last few years. Kiwanis has also been sponsoring our youth programs since 1925, when the first Key Club was founded. Since then, we've added more programs and experienced tremendous growth. Most often, our SLPs are sponsored by our Kiwanis clubs and occasionally will be sponsored by another civic organization. As the sponsoring club, your role will span from initiating the organization of the club, working with school officials, and providing counseling and assistance for members if needed. In a very brief and very high-level overview, that's kind of what our organization is. We're here to support the children of our communities in a myriad of different ways. And your role as a club treasurer plays an integral role in making all of these pieces work. Your election as treasurer of your club is proof that your fellow members see you as a person of integrity. You have an aptitude for finance, and along with your club board, you're going to be responsible for your club's financial stability. Take pride in this leadership role. You've earned your club's trust, and it's important to know what the club treasurer's position entails. While there are many universal aspects to this role, there is additional information that you're going to need in order to obtain your club in good standing status. These could be reports or filings that need to be done at your state, local, or country level. When in doubt, you can ask your club's financial auditing firm or your Kiwanis district office, as both may have some more specific information for your location. Arguably, the club treasurer is the most humble position within a club. The only time people tend to notice the treasurer is when an invoice is due or if something's gone wrong. But there's much more behind the scenes work, like keeping your club in a good financial standing. The treasurer also impacts the relationships that your club has with your community. Some of your key duties and responsibilities include maintaining good financial stewardship, collecting funds, coordinating your club's financial responsibilities with your club secretary, in creating an annual budget report. As treasurer, you'll often serve as an advisor to your club on financial matters. This will also include setting your club's budget. Remember that you're also part of your club's board of directors, and you're entitled to participate in all board discussions and can vote on any question put to vote by the presiding officer. One of your key responsibilities is to collect all funds due to the club and keeping records of membership fees and dues. However, some of your clubs may have delegated this responsibility to your club secretary. The dues process is relatively straightforward. There are some steps, though, that are important in order to understand and maximize your member communication and expectations. It's important you understand what needs to combine to create a member's financial responsibility and how those decisions are made. Kiwanis International dues are set by the House of Delegates, while the fees are established by the International Board based on the cost of the services provided. These fees can fluctuate slightly to reflect a change in cost. You do not have to charge the same amount for all of your members, as long as this is something you have indicated in your club's bylaws. Discounted club dues for senior memberships or for opting out of prepaid meals are a popular option for many clubs. You might also notice things like liabilities insurance and directors and officers insurance is exclusive to North America and the Caribbean, whereas the $8 magazine publication fee is only for English-speaking members within North America. Our members of our clubs pay membership dues and fees to the club directly. The dues and fees that are paid by members support Kiwanis International, the district, and of course, your club. The total amount that you pay depends entirely on your club and district, and these are determined by appropriate governing bodies. So for example, district dues, the decision is made by the district's House of Delegates. For club dues, the club bylaws and policies state that club membership dues, fees, and other assessments as provided in club policy must be approved by 2/3 vote of the members present and voting, provided at least 14 days previous notice of the vote, and proposed amount is given to the members. This is all stated in Article 8.5 of the club bylaws. When you're coming up with the figure of your total annual dues, make sure that your club dues, district dues, and international dues are all represented. So take a moment and think about your club's dues. What do they cover? Then think about what are the operating costs of your club. Do your dues cover these costs? If not, where do those additional funds come from? Some clubs opt to offer prepaid meals, which they do wrap into their club dues. Others don't. Some clubs experience higher operating costs for larger service projects. It's important to keep all of these in mind to make sure that your club is in good financial standing. There are 2 exceptions for Kiwanis International dues that were listed previously. First is the spousal waiver for the magazine. While it's a condition of membership that each member is a subscriber to the Kiwanis magazine, if both spouses are a member of a club, one spouse may choose to not subscribe to the magazine, which will result in a small reduction in fees. The spouses do not necessarily need to be members of the same club either. In order to receive this benefit, you do need to contact Kiwanis International's member services team to have it reflect appropriately. The other exception is for new member alumnus of Kiwanis SLP programs. If a new member is an alumnus of a service leadership program, the club should not charge that member Kiwanis International dues for 2 years after joining their first club. This does not mean every time you join a new club, you can take advantage of this, this discount. It is the first time you join a Kiwanis club. They are still going to be required to pay insurance and magazine fees as well as a new member ad fee. A little side note though, currently the new member ad fee is waived through the end of this year, so September 30th of 2020. If the new member is reported properly, when added to your club's roster by your club secretary, this 2-year waiver will automatically apply and appear on your club invoice. You can also check with your district office to see whether or not your district waives district dues for new members who are alumni of SLPs. Both of these exceptions are intended to be financial benefits of the eligible member and should be reflected on their personal invoices. As with most things related to finance and accounting, there are clear expectations and deadlines regarding the completion of steps in the dues invoicing process. Members of local Kiwanis clubs pay their annual membership dues and fees to their club. Those dues and fees paid by members support the club, the district, and the international office. The amount a member pays in dues depends entirely on your district and your club. Some tips for dues invoicing to ensure that all new club members are added, or to ensure that all new club members have been added by September 30th. Make sure that any deleted member is submitted by your club secretary by October 10th, or you will be billed for them. After the 10-day window, your invoice is locked in. Invoices will be mailed out the last week of October or the first week of November from Indianapolis, and you'll have 30 days to remit payment. Information on where and how to remit payment is listed on your invoice. Lastly, our US clubs can pay online if they prefer. However, clubs outside of the US or who do not wish to pay online can do so according to the instructions within the invoice. A note for our North American clubs: when your club receives an invoice from Kiwanis International for continuing members or for new members, both your Kiwanis International and your district dues are included in the invoice. The second thing is, if your club sponsors a builders club or K-Kids, their renewal fees will also be attached to your invoice and billed to your club. Oops. We've talked a lot about member dues and what they consist of, but how's the best way to go about collecting them? Collecting them does not have to be a grueling process, though, if everyone knows what to expect up front. Even though dues are not paid to Kiwanis International until late November or early December, it's highly, highly, highly recommended that dues be scheduled for payment to your club by October 1st. This will help your club anticipate any changes to your roster while it is still possible to make adjustments. You can make these adjustments up until October 10th without financial penalty. Some clubs have the option of paying dues through the district website and resources. Contact your district secretary to find out whether or not this is an option for your club. As treasurer, you'll be responsible for creating the member statement or the member invoice. You'll probably look at this as a bill that you're going to have to give to your fellow club members. An interesting way to approach it is to ask your membership chair for help. Ask them to approach your club members and use the invoice as an opportunity to talk about the great work that your club's accomplished in the last year and how members like them made a difference. And by the way, here's your invoice for the year. Though this is a subtle difference, there's an important distinction. You're not asking your members to consider renewing their membership and thus giving them the opportunity to consider not renewing. You are inviting them to continue to invest in their community by continuing their involvement with your club. It's become standard practice to send an invoice attached to an email. If your members respond well to this delivery method, it can be a cost and time saving way to get your invoices out. It also avoids postage and seems to be well received by many of our club members. It also is a more subtle option and leaves out the awkwardness of trying to hand deliver invoices at a club meeting. There are some important details, though, that you do need to include in your member statements. You need to disclose the total amount due very clearly, where to send the check, and who the check needs to be payable to, or if your club accepts online payment, where to pay online, an outline of the dues and fees assessed, and a disclaimer that dues and fees are not considered tax deductible within the United States. This disclaimer does need to be clear and easy to read, not hidden. And make sure that there's absolutely no confusion on that. You also need to keep in mind that not every member is going to pay the same amount, and your member statements do need to reflect those discounts. Remember, all exceptions and discounts are intended to be financial benefits to the eligible member and should be reflected on their personal invoices. This is not a discount for the club, rather for that individual member. Our club accounts. This is a very hot topic about our administrative and our service accounts. And while some clubs may need to have several separate bank accounts, every club has to have a minimum of two, your administrative and your service account. Accounts in the club's name will likely be business accounts that will require two signatures for all banking transactions. And if it's not a requirement, it is highly suggested, though, that the club does opt for this requirement of two signatures. It can be inconvenient at times, but it is a smart business practice, especially in a service organization that strives to be transparent. First, we'll talk about our administrative accounts. The administrative account is for all administrative expenses of your club. The majority of the funds come from annual club dues, meeting meals if applicable, and your membership meals or your membership fees from new members. Generally, money from any activity in which only your members participate is deposited into your administrative account. Expenses that come out of your administrative account include Kiwanis International and district dues, conventions, club programming, your magazine subscriptions, meals, club newsletters, or liability insurance. We also have a service account, which is for the service programs of the club. Basically, the income for this account is derived from fundraising projects and where the public participates, or from designated contributions. Article 8, Section 1 of the club bylaws stipulate that monies received for the club service activities, regardless of the source, may only be used for service activities. The service account covers expenses for all club service activities, as well as educational, religious, and charitable activities. It can also cover liability insurance, SLP expenses, club leadership education. New this year is also the ability to use your service account with the Kiwanis Education Conference. So if you didn't know, clubs can pay all or a portion of each member's expenses for the Kiwanis Education Conference, which is part of the Kiwanis International Convention, from its service account. A fair practice would be to reimburse 2/3 from the service account and 1/3 from the administrative account for a member who is attending all 3 days of the convention. Expenses for only attending the Kiwanis annual meeting, which is often referred to as the business session, does not qualify for reimbursement from your service account per Kiwanis standards. So I realize there's usually a lot of questions about our administrative and our service accounts and what you can and cannot do with those. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to invite Sue and David Simmons, who's the Leadership Development Coordinator from Georgia, to join me, and we will tackle your service and administrative account questions. That is hard for me to say, and make sure that we can help you as best as possible. All right.
So there was one question that came in was about the Happy Bucks in what was common, practice. Most clubs that I'm aware of use Happy Bucks as a supplement for their administrative funds. And that's usually where they put, Happy Bucks or Happy Dollars or whatever they do. Most of them do it in their administrative account as a way to help fund that account for other expenses.
I see a question about, or a comment about trading audits from one club to the other, and it's asking if anyone else uses this practice. I mean, I think that's a great idea. You're having someone else look at it. That's the main thing, whether it's you're swapping with another club. I mean, I think that would meet the guidelines for handling the audit.
We will talk about the audit a little bit more here in a minute, but I agree. I think that's a really great idea. I did see a comment that said most banks won't allow for the requirement of 2 signatures. It totally depends on where you are and what banking institution you're with. Sometimes you can luck out with a smaller local bank, or even some of our big multinational banks do still offer that service. If it's something you want, that's great. You can also look at having 2 people sign off on deposits, things like that, just to make sure that there is that extra accountability piece in maintaining transparency.
The question was asked about whether the slide deck will be available after there's continued training for treasurers today, and then there's training again on Saturday. After this weekend, a copy of the recording and the slide deck will be made available through the learning development coordinators in the districts sometime next week.
Yep, most likely next Wednesday. Just kind of looking at how things are moving. So it's taking a little bit longer than we anticipated for these to get uploaded because they're huge files, these recordings. So middle of next week, keep an eye out on your inbox for information.
There's another question about an age limit on a new member alumnus, and there is no age limit. The main thing, and this was talked about yesterday when we did secretary, is sometimes depending on how long ago you were in a Kiwanis, like you were in Key Club, depending on how long ago, there might not be a record of it. But it's just as long as you're, because I think Meredith, you said whether it was you or somebody used the example that they used their high school yearbook for Key Club to be able to show that they were in a Key Club, because wasn't able to show any records. So there is no age limit.
No, and we do tend to just take your word. So if you are in a Key Club, you're a CKI or Builders Club alum, thank you. I happen to be in a Key Club with Jeff Otis's, our COO's son. So I did have some documentation that I could prove, and it was kind of funny. But we do tend to trust you. So it's a great way to recruit some new members, but also that is something that's wonderful to take advantage of. Melanie asks, can the district education portion of convention be applied to the service account as well? Yes, it can. Again, it's one of those things, if someone from a club is going to attend your district convention for the education and act as a delegate for your district's House of Delegates, it is best practice to kind of split between the two accounts as well.
The question was raised about liability insurance being included in administrative and in service. And that is correct. You can take money from your service account for your liability insurance, because of the liability insurance covers the service work that you do.
There's a comment about one member talks about that their club bills members in advance quarterly for dues. Each club, as far as setting your dues, when they're due, some clubs pay by the month, some clubs pay by the quarter. It's all entirely up to your club. The main thing is that when Kiwanis International dues are due, that everybody has to pay them at that time frame. But however your club bills, what works best for you. A lot of clubs, especially those that have meals, do bill on either a monthly or quarterly basis. And so most clubs, especially if they've been around a while, shouldn't have an issue with paying dues because they have the funds. It's newer clubs that really probably have it struggle because they haven't built up those reserves yet.
Definitely. And a cool option my club takes advantage of is on using a service like PayPal. You can tell them, our club will send out invoices here in the next week or two usually, and it gives us the option to pay it all at once or to divide it up between now and October 1st. And it just does that automatically, and it sends you a little reminder. And so there are free tools that are available if that's something your club is interested in doing. A question came in. So your service account is money that's raised to give back to your community. How is it that we can use the funds then for the Kiwanis Education Conference? I can answer that if you guys would like. The whole idea behind that is that you're attending these educational opportunities to bring back to your club to improve your community. You're being trained in some way, shape, or form that's going to benefit your community, increase your service, and increase your revenue that way. So by your club using some of its service funds to invest in you, you will then be able to invest in your community and see that return of that investment, hopefully quickly, by attending these trainings. So whether it be positional leadership training that is offered at international convention or at your district convention, the idea is that by using some of these funds from the service account will impact your community directly because you were part of these training opportunities.
And that I can tell you that from previous, that thought that you can't take it from your service account has kind of been an unwritten rule in the Kiwanis world. There's nothing anywhere that states that you have to take it from administrative. It's just been an unwritten. I know that's how I was trained. You can't do that, and that was 30 years ago. So it's just been an unwritten thing that's continued on. And some clubs, still continue to pull it from their administrative account. That's their choice. But you do have that option to pull from your service account if you wish to do so.
And I believe it was back in October, Kiwanis International did send out a message kind of setting this a little more straight and saying very blatantly that yes, you can use your service account for the Kiwanis Education Conference and for district education and CLE opportunities. When I was talking to you guys about it, I read the exact statement. It's also in the leadership guide on page 43 at the bottom. There is some information about it on the Kiwanis website as well. But to make sure that I gave you guys the absolute correct information, I did read that one for you word for word. And so in the last few months, this is relatively new for us to come out and say, you can use your service account. But just be smart about it too, especially if someone is going for the administrative part of your convention or the international convention. It is probably a best practice to split and pay for that from both accounts.
There was a question about life member status as far as the difference between lifetime members and regular active club doing billings. A life member is an individual that has either been awarded or recognized for the work that they've done with the organization. And the cost of a life member status is 15 times the annual dues, which currently is $780. So once that member pays or that recognition is made and someone is identified as a life member of Kiwanis International, they never pay dues for the rest of their time in Kiwanis for their life membership. They still have the other expenses for magazines and stuff, but they don't pay the dues component of it. So when you break down how much there are times the 15 years, a lot of clubs use that as recognition for their officers or for others who have done.
Definitely. And you explained that so much better than I could have, Sue, so I appreciate it. One question said, is there a fee for the CLE training? Nope, you're good. Thanks for signing up. No cost. Who receives the information from KI? Depending on what you're asking, typically it's your club secretary. They are your direct link. If your club does not have an administrative secretary, you can talk to your club secretary about becoming the club's administrative secretary. And you will see some of those communications, sometimes not all of them. They do just go to the club secretaries, but that's a good start. And one of the things your secretary is supposed to do is keep you informed of changes like these. Also making sure that you're signed up for Kiwanis Dateline and the KI update that come out in your inbox. This is shameless plug. If you did not receive an invitation directly from me to sign up for this training, it's because either your contact information is incorrect, your club did not submit their election report on time, or you have unsubscribed from Kiwanis Communications. So you're not receiving the information like the update or Dateline or any kind of breaking news that we will push out. And you can go ahead and resubscribe. You can go to kiwanis.org/subscribe to do that. You can call member services, but that will help keep you in the loop as well. All right, well, I hope we answered some of your service and administrative account questions. I know there's kind of a lot that goes into being a club treasurer, so we'll hop back into things, and we'll obviously take some more questions here at the end. But since we're going to dive into some more about the budgeting process and accounting and those dreaded IRS forms, we thought right now would be a good time to kind of take a second, regroup, and we'll keep going. So kind of moving on, we'll talk about our accounting system. And so really kind of like a great thing to kind of keep in mind is, like, if you have an accounting system for your club that works, stick with it. That's great. But if your club is in the process of developing one or revising theirs, make sure that it can handle all of these criteria, that you can identify all sources of income and disbursements, that you have accurate financial reports, that you have accurate billing of members. A big one is that you can report the financial standing of any of your members at any time. So if I asked Sue what my financial status as a member was, that she could get me that information. And also that you will be able to provide your secretary with data about any delinquent dues payers. Remember, this is confidential information, so it's not something to blurt out at a club meeting, but this is something you'd share with your president or the board. The annual audit or financial review, I know there's some hot topic about the word audit because there is a number that makes at a certain threshold it becomes an audit from just a financial review. But for these purposes, we will call it an audit. And the bylaws require that every club completes an annual audit of its club accounts, which you can complete by either a qualified accounting firm who is not at all affiliated with any of the members in your club, or you can have a standing financial review committee. Every club is required to do this every year. And making this a standard practice ensures that your club finances are handled properly and reinforces your club's confidence in you as a treasurer. It really does maintain that transparency. If your club opts to do a review by a financial review committee, which is the only committee required by the Kiwanis International bylaws for a club, you as treasurer cannot serve on the committee. So you cannot be involved in any way, shape, or form with the financial review. Quickly touching on incorporation, kind of in the large scale sort of approach. Every club in the US is required to be incorporated. This is also true though of a lot of the other countries that we are in. Typically, you file your initial incorporation when your club originally chartered. Depending on where you are in the world, you may need to renew your incorporation annually, and that could be done on the local, state, or federal level. If you have any questions about your incorporation status, call member services at 1-800-Kiwanis or reach out to your district office. So as the incoming treasurer, you're going to work with your incoming president and other leaders to develop the annual budget for your club. This will be for the administrative year of October 1st through September 30th. And you should include all anticipated committee expenses and any projected revenue from your fundraising events. Here's a list of general files to maintain throughout your year, including your checkbook, the club's checkbook, all paid invoices, any receipts for any cash dispersed, all bank statements and reconciliations, any treasurer reports that you give at a board of directors meeting or a club meeting, any files related to your club's budget, and then whatever official documentation is required by your state or local law. This will vary from district to district. It can vary from club to club. It can vary within clubs within the same district. So make sure that you are meeting those requirements. There's also there are 4 permanent records you absolutely have to have, which include canceled checks for the last 7 years, all invoices, all of your financial records and reports, and if your club has a foundation, all official documents related to your club's foundation. At the end of the fiscal year, you'll need to pass all of these files off to your club secretary or your club's custodian of records. They may be the same person, they may not be the same person, but make sure that more than one person has access to the permanent records. Kind of a brief look at the budget timeline. So during August, club committees will begin meeting to review materials. They'll set their goals, their timelines of when they want to accomplish things. And you'll also have your club board will approve your budget at either late September or the first board meeting of October, and really get things kind of moving. You'll want your committees to submit a budget proposal prior to your club board meeting to approve the budget. Hopefully you can have them do that late September or early October. Approval for their budget should come from the board that will be serving in that administrative year. So not your current club board, but the board, your club's board that will take office October 1st. Every month you will give a monthly financial report during your club's monthly board meeting. Every year you'll file the annual financial report, and you will present that to your club as well. Just give them the status of what your club looks like today, where they stand in terms of its finances and what that means. In late December, early January, again, remind your club members that though you love donations to your club, those are not tax deductible gifts. And then lastly, anytime during your year, you can create a projected ROI, so that return on investment for any club activity that you have. You can forecast what you kind of think you're going to be, or maybe if you have some unexpected expenses, how that will impact the rest of your year. So keep that in mind kind of consistently throughout your year. Take a moment and think about what is important to your club. When you think about what's important to your club, is that reflected in your budget? If you don't think it's reflected in your budget, what should it include? What should you make sure that you are budgeting money to spend as a club that kind of supports the goals and priorities of your club? Remember, proper funding is absolutely necessary in order to have a successful fundraising event. So consider creating partnerships or offering sponsorship opportunities, or even applying for grants to make sure that you can achieve the goals that your club has kind of set forth. Those of you who are on the secretary training yesterday, we talked a lot about your why. Why do you do what you do? So why does your club exist? And make sure that your budget is reflective of that. The good old reporting expectations. So every time that your club board gathers to discuss your club's business, you should be prepared with a financial report that talks about the activity in both your administrative and your service accounts, and your administrative year-to-date kind of standing of those accounts. In addition, at your club's annual meeting, typically in April or May, one thing on the agenda is a report from the treasurer. This is when you should include some detailed financial information, such as statements from the most recent board meeting. And it's also a great opportunity to talk about the incredible work you're doing and what the monetary impact has been for your club and for your community. Most importantly, be transparent about all financial records and the current financial status of your club at all times. If something is wrong, address it right away and make sure that the people who need to be aware are aware. But maintaining that transparency is so, so, so important. And the future of your club really depends on it. The Children's Fund is also a great resource for you, and they have a great club grant program to help address an unmet need that affects children in your community by supporting a project that provides some long-term benefits that your club can sustain. Not all projects, though, are eligible for a grant, and in general, though, the project should be Kiwanis-led, fill a documented need within your community, recur at least once a year, and support activities within one of the Children's Fund cause areas, which are health, education, or youth leadership development. For the Children's Fund, the grant is looked at as a form of collaboration. So when a Kiwanis club has a gap in its funding for service, a club grant can help fill it. Clubs can complete the first step of the application process, which is called a letter of inquiry, anytime throughout the year, but grants are awarded in June, October, and January. Some clubs also have their own club foundations, which accept tax-deductible donations. If your club has a foundation, you must follow the bylaws and articles of incorporation for Kiwanis club foundations. The Kiwanis Children's Fund offers relevant resources, all of which reflect best practices under U.S. tax law. You'll notice there are three main types of foundations that support the Children's Fund. With your club foundations, which support your local and club needs, your district foundations, which support regional district needs, and then the Children's Fund focuses on projects that benefit from the collective support of Kiwanians globally. Those tend to be our big projects like the Eliminate Project, or working to eliminate IDD. In terms of your club foundations, to set this up, if you don't already have one, you need to get consent from Kiwanis International. Clubs are will also need to create their own articles of incorporation and bylaws, and these do differ from your club incorporation and club bylaw. Banks do also tend to have specific requirements for opening accounts for foundations, and a foundation requires a foundation treasurer. Once again, for my Canadian and Caribbean friends, I apologize, but we are going to talk about some US specific requirements for club treasurers. We'll start off with incorporation. Every single club in the United States is required to be incorporated. It's typically done at new club chartering, but it's important to ensure that your club's paperwork has been filed and that you have a copy of your original paperwork. Kiwanis International and your state or local government also will need a copy of your incorporation. If you have not submitted that or you're unsure, you can reach out to member services at Kiwanis and they will help confirm that for you if it's there or let you know if they need it. In kind of a big, huge, I wish I had blinking lights, your incorporation must be renewed annually. Failure to do so can put your 501c4 or your tax exempt status in jeopardy. The U.S. Revenue Act regarding fundraising solicitations is exceptionally important, and I briefly talked about it in the member invoices section. So the U.S. federal government requires any and all fundraising solicitations on behalf of Kiwanis clubs and Kiwanis districts have to include an express statement that says contributions or gifts to the club are not deductible as charitable contributions for federal income tax purposes. This needs to be on every single statement, easily recognized, conspicuously located, regardless of whether or not this is written, printed, on TV, on the radio, over the phone. You absolutely have to make this clear that gifts to your club are not tax deductible. The Form 990 is another very hot topic that the Internal Revenue Service requires all US-based Kiwanis clubs to submit annually. These are due on February 15th of every year, so 5 months after the start of your fiscal year. Failure to file these can put your club's incorporation status at risk, and in severe cases, you can experience fines. You can visit kiwanis.org/form 990 for more information about the form itself. There are 3 kinds of 990s based on the amount of revenue that your club has. The Form 8976 is another kind of very hot topic. This was recently passed as a new regulation that required all newly formed 501c4 organizations to notify the IRS of their intention to operate as one through this form. This is stated in the Internal Revenue Code 26 CFR 1.506. Currently, almost all Kiwanis clubs within the US operate as a 501c4 organization. In order to be considered a 501c4 organization, a club must report its employer identification number, or EIN, to Kiwanis International, who then reports it to the IRS as part of its annual group exemption. Because of this current practice, Kiwanis did reach out for clarification from the IRS about whether or not new Kiwanis clubs are required to file this. On September 29th of 2016, KI was notified by the IRS through our tax advisors, BKD, that all new Kiwanis clubs need to file Form 8976, and it does not matter that the club is part of a group exemption. So, do you need to file a Form 8976? If your club filed tax documents, so a 990, a 990N, a 990EZ, or a Form 1024 with the IRS prior to July 8th of 2016, you do not need to file a Form 8976. If your club did not file a 990 or a 1024 before July 8th, 2016, you do need to file Form 8976. It's an electronic form. You can go to the IRS website to do that. Please file this as soon as possible. Failure to file can result in heavy fines. All new clubs organized on or after July 8, 2016 need to file Form 8976 within 60 days of organization or from receiving your EIN notification from the IRS. Once again, if you said no, that your club did not file tax documents and was organized prior to July 8th, 2016, you are required to file Form 8976 immediately. If you have questions on whether or not you have filed Form 8976, you can contact your district office or the finance team at Kiwanis. You can reach them via member services or finance@kiwanis.org in order to get some answers. One last thing about Form 8976, it's a $50 fee to file that. You just do that online from the IRS. There are some requirements on the IRS website of information you will need, but make sure that you have that taken care of so you are not fined. Just a few reminders for all of you. As a treasurer, remember to report your club's financials every month. Keep your administrative and your service accounts separate. Reconcile your bank accounts. Always give receipts. Require invoices or check requests. If you need to be a cashier at a meeting, act as one, but provide those receipts. Keep all the records together for the annual audit to turn that over either to an accounting firm or to that financial review committee. And as always, retain those permanent records for 7 years, those canceled checks and invoices and whatnot. So I'm going to bring back David and Sue. We are here to answer questions for the next 15 minutes or so. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to your district office, especially if it's something about what forms are required for your club in particular. They can vary they vary state to state. They can vary at the municipality level. So they are a great resource. Any general questions you may have, feel free to reach out to me at education@kiwanis.org. I ask for some grace. I will get back to you as soon as I can. I think as Sue mentioned, this is our 10th of 22 sessions this week. So I will get back to you as fast as I possibly can, but please note that we're doing our best here. So I will turn it over to these guys and ask away.
Help to unmute. I see one statement that says, if there's a surplus in the club, how can this be invested to avoid tax consequences? You know, most clubs, I think, you know, operate on, especially from the service aspect, as far as the money that they take in, they use it all to, you know, back to help the community, help kids and so forth. If your club does have a surplus, I would, especially if it's a significant amount of funds, I would definitely consider forming a foundation, because unlike a lot of this, your foundation can be tax deductible, and then you can have programs from that, like scholarships and so forth, that could be going on ongoing and last long past some of your current members. So if your club has a consistent surplus that's significant, I would look at it as forming a foundation.
There's a question about the filing fees for 8976 from administrative or service account. Anybody want to tackle that one?
I believe it's your administrative account.
Yep.
Because it is due to the administration of your club.
Yearly incorporation certification is typically done online. It depends on where your club is and where you're incorporated.
Yes, I know some clubs, I believe Kentucky is one of those states where it's at the municipality level. It's not at the state level.
Right.
You kind of see it's one of there too. And so that is one of those things. Double check. Your district office probably has some better insight. But yes, 9 times out of 10, you can file these online.
There's a statement about liability insurance being in both the administrative and service accounts, and it's similar to the thought process when we were talking about going to training and conventions, because every club, of course, has liability insurance, and of course that protects the club, like at a club meeting, if something were to happen there. But it also, and the reason why it's in both administrative and service is because if you have a project, most projects don't take place at your club building. They take place at another venue, and so you're out doing things, or even if you're out doing fundraisers and so forth, then that's what allows you a portion that can be used from your service account, and then a portion from your administrative account. It works very similar to the what was talked about with training and conventions and so forth. I don't know what the percentage breakdown is right offhand. Do you remember, Sue?
I don't remember.
Okay.
We'll have to look that up. Wait, I was just looking here. The question was asked about audit requirements and when should your audit be done or your annual review be done. A lot of clubs do that after they close an administrative year, so they may do it in October, November, December. It just depends on, like our club typically does it after we close the administrative year in October. And we have several people in our club that are not part of the board, but have the skills to do annual review. They work in the financial world, and they're the ones that do our annual review. Or as someone mentioned earlier, they had another club do it for them.
There's a question. Are funds donated directly to the service accounts from members tax deductible? And that's a no. Funds donated to your club, whether it goes to the administrative account or service account, none of that is tax deductible. The only thing that is tax deductible would go back to a foundation, and is if your club has a foundation, then that can be tax deductible. And that sometimes that can be confusing to people, because especially like if your club does have a foundation for scholarships, you might have a push to have people donate to that, and then you might turn around 2 weeks or 2 months later and be having some type of fundraiser. So it can be confusing, but you do need to explain to people. And I think it's great about the statement that, says that it's not tax deductible. So that way it clarifies when you're asking or soliciting for members or from the community, it clarifies, well, this is tax deductible and this one is not. But just normally to your service account, that would be no.
And most people don't understand that Kiwanis International, we are a 501c4 organization, not a 501c3 organization. We're a 501c4. Your foundations would be a 501c3 if that's how they're established that way. That's why. So your goal would be, if you have a foundation, to provide those funds through your foundation.
If you make donations directly to the Children's Fund, the Kiwanis International Children's Fund, that is a 501c3 organization. So there is a lot of confusion there. So donations to the Children's Fund is tax deductible and is a 501c3. Kiwanis International is not. We are 501c4. Just like your club is a 501c4. I think I saw a comment about, having a 501c3 club. You are a 501c4 club. You can have a 501c3 club foundation, but you cannot be a 501c3 club.
Let's see here. How does a club go about obtaining a grant for a project? If you go to the Kiwanis Children's Fund website, there is actually a, let's see if I can figure out what it's called here. Kiwanis Children's Fund. Right at the top, there's an opportunity for you to give now, and there's also under resources or under impact. Under impact and programs, there is a line item that says grant programs. There are several different grants, right? There's a disaster relief grant, there's a club grant program. And when you start up the club grant program, as Meredith mentioned earlier, you kind of are starting with a letter of, sort of a letter of intent, I guess is what you kind of call it. And that helps with getting those resources started. So you just need to go to the Kiwanis Children's Fund webpage, and under impact and programs, there is a Kiwanis grant program.
You can also go to the KiwanisChildren'sFund.org/club grants. This is the web page. I put it up so we can share our screens here, but it walks you through step by step the important dates when funding decisions are made. And then they do have this handy dandy guide to club grants that walks you through the process, which just to try to make it as easy as possible. And of course, you can always reach out to the Children's Fund for some additional help.
I see a question about the filing fee for the IRS 8976 and whether it comes from your administrative or service account, and that would come from your administrative.
And there's a question about if you sponsor a Key Club or stipends for Key Club advisor, can those come from your administrator or your service? Those can come from your service account. Are there term limits for club treasurer? People will tell you as long as you decide to stay along, no one's going to move you out. Club treasurers are like club secretaries. They are there for
long haul.
The long haul. You know, it's up to the club.
I made the comment yesterday at the secretary training, and it applies to treasurer too. It's almost like a federal judge. You have it for life.
For those of you who know Brad Boyd, you can do the Brad Boyd approach though in your club elections and just nominate people from the floor to be club treasurer or club secretary. And so you can always try to make it interesting, but typically you guys, especially if you do a good job, your clubs tend to reward that and elect you year after year. If you don't want to be, you don't have to run.
A question about, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, there's a question about, is it recorded? Yes, this is recorded. And will this show up on the CLE tracker? It's not gonna show up on the CLE tracker, but reports of who attended is going to your district. So keep that in mind, that your district is notified that you did participate. All right, Sue, sorry, back to you.
That's the one I was working on.
There's a question about bylaws. If they have a club has two corporations, a 501c3, which would be a foundation, and then the club, the 501c4, if you needed separate bylaws, then you would. One that covers the club, and you know, if you're a secretary, you can access that to the Kiwanis Connect site, and then your foundation would need a separate set of bylaws.
There is this page on the Children's Fund website that walks you through. It's under their resources and downloads, Kiwanis Family Foundation resources and downloads, that has the guidelines for setting one up, how you start and set one up, and then the foundation bylaws and articles of incorporation information is listed there. Once again, the Children's Fund team is going to be your go-to resource for setting those things up, and it is different than your club, the standard form for club bylaws.
David, did you see the note from your friend James?
I did not.
You might mention that a club check to see if there's any proposed new project that is covered by liability insurance, that they need to get an additional license to cover excess liability. You must have experience.
So like if your club's signature project is a hot air balloon festival, you're probably going to require an additional liability rider, some additional liability insurance. My club's signature project is to pack diapers. That is significantly less risk than getting on a hot air balloon or Zozobra out in the Southwest District. Anything like that, you will need to research some additional information.
And the staff at Kiwanis International can help you if you need a copy of that.
Definitely. And your club secretary should have also received the risk management information book for everyone within North America about like what those limits are, when you would need additional coverage. You also have a district risk manager available to you.
There's a comment or a question. I don't know if it, but it says, I'll just read it what it says. For small clubs, if the total cash of the admin and service accounts is less, I guess maybe the question maybe they're asking is, to me, the service account, it's okay if that account is less than administrative, because the administrative account, you can use those funds however you want to use them. As far as, if it's money from the members or if it's money from a service project, then you can pay anything out of the administrative account. The service account, you can't pay everything out of. So I would always try to, I'd recommend trying to make sure there was more money in my administrative account if I had to choose, but preferably you get a lot in your service account through fundraisers.
And remember, you can transfer funds from your administrative account to your service account, but you cannot transfer funds from your service account into your administrative account. So it's a one-way street. So kind of like David said, having that kind of extra funds in your admin account, they can be reallocated to service if necessary, but you can't allocate from service back to admin.
There was a question early on from David who wanted to know if anybody can make a chart of accounts and default financial report templates for QuickBooks Pro. If there's anybody that has any experience with that, if you would just let us know. I personally don't use QuickBooks, so I can't help you there, and I know that a lot of clubs use different programs. So
Kiwanis does also have a partner, Aplos, for some nonprofit accounting software that they offer at a discounted rate. That you can, there is some information about it in the leadership guide. There's information available on our website as well, and you can download that, and it is nonprofit specific to use. I also am not familiar with QuickBooks, and we don't have like a library of different templates that other clubs use. But if anyone does, reach out to David Goodwin. I know he would appreciate it. We probably have time for about one more question, guys. So if there's one you saw that you guys would like to answer.
There's a quick one on here. Funds donated to the foundation are tax deductible, and that's a yes. Whether that's if you have a club foundation, the children's foundation, or if your district has a foundation, then all of that would be tax deductible.
Yep, just make sure they have that 501c3 status. All right, well, thank you all again for taking time out of your Wednesday night to learn about what it means to be a treasurer. Hopefully, for those of you who've been a treasurer for a long time, you did still come out with something new. And for our new treasurers, that you are excited and not scared, because I know this can feel a little daunting for the year ahead. So this is going to be a really fun year. You have lots of support. These PowerPoints will be made available. Give me about a week. There's more information in the leadership guide. There are a ton of resources on our website as well. Us as Kiwanis International staff, we are a phone call away. Your district is also available. Reach out to your district secretaries. They are a wealth of information. Sue's got the leadership guide in her hand. I've got one here. This will be your best friend. Thank you to David and Sue for taking time out of their Wednesday night to help with treasurer training. David's done this every night this week. Sue has been on the calls this week. We're going through Saturday, so I appreciate you guys taking your time as well. Any additional questions, if it does feel kind of district specific or what forms do I file, reach out to your district, but any general questions, feel free to send my way at KI. My email address is still on the screen, so I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you all so much. Have a great night. Stay safe and stay healthy.
All right, thanks, David. Thanks.
Great job, Sue.
As I say, great job, David. In fact, well, since we're still on, I was talking about you earlier today, just so you know. I'm putting together our club leadership or our workshops for our district convention week, because we're going to do district convention, virtual, but they wanted workshops, and I'm like, I'm going to ask David if he'll do workshops for me on club secretary and club treasurer. You know how when you bring someone in that's not from your district, you're the expert, right? And I've been a secretary for, golly, 10 years now. Treasurer, right. A little bit, but I mean, I know plenty of people that have been club treasurers for a while. It would be great. So I will probably reach out to you. I'm just waiting to get some dates finalized, but I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to do this and bring people in from other districts, because that just helps everybody go, oh, our lieutenant governor training is we have another session tonight, but I've been bringing people in from all over in Kiwanis International. So everybody's getting, all these trainings from people from not me, or not my district, and people are loving it. So I'm like, I got David's number.
I'll do it on one condition. If you could say go blue, if you can say go blue one time, I'll do it.
I can say go blue.
I didn't know you were a Michigan fan, David.
It doesn't, I'm one of those people that, Sparty's my life, but hey, I have really good friends in Michigan, so I can say go blue.
It was funny.
And I can say, I can talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes too, so.
I won't make you say anything about them.
I didn't work at KI when Lanton Lee was there, but I've gotten to know him. And we just have agreed to disagree. And it's just, we're not going to talk about it. I'll wear my Michigan gear. He'll wear that one school's gear, and it'll work. But yes, usually I've got, in the office, I've got a whole bunch of Michigan stuff. At my home office, I don't.
Yeah, he, when I was president, my governor-elect's training, we did a tailgate party the night of the Michigan State-Ohio State football game, which was great because he brought all his tailgate stuff in. And we taught our friends in Asia and Europe how to tailgate. They had no idea what it was. They're like, why do you open up the trunk of your car?
That's funny.
But once they figured out the beer pong, they were really excited.
Yeah.
That's all that mattered. So
that's funny.
So, fun things we teach. So, all right.
What is better than Big Ten football though? Like, if you want the most American experience, Big Ten football is where it's at. And my heart hurts as I look forward to the season. Or what will the football season exist?
I think there'll be a season. I just don't, I'm not sure. I mean, they're talking that we could be like 25% of our stadium capacity.
Right. And you look at like how big your stadium is or the big house, and at 25% full, like that's gonna look weird.
Yeah. So instead of them showing that the fans aren't coming, they go to the games because the teams are no good.
It's social distancing.
It's social distancing. Physical distancing. We're trying to change it. Physical distancing.
Because we do have the ability to still be social.
That's right. We do.
Well, hey, I get to see you guys as the dynamic duo again tomorrow for membership. Also, just
that's right, we are.
Chris Martz and Rhonda Varell will also be on as panelists, especially with some of the virtual meeting questions that have come up. There's been a lot in the last, this is actually the first session I've had that has not talked about it or had it brought up. Kind of when we're limited there to 60 minutes, there's only so much you can talk about, and obviously we need to address it, and so the membership committee training really is the best opportunity for that. And so Chris and Rhonda are also going to be here to weigh in and give some expertise as well. So I know Rhonda's excited. I told her that the two of you, that we were having a lot of fun tonight on this call, and that you guys will be on the call again tomorrow too. So.
Same time, yeah, because I go into Lieutenant Governor training here at 8, so Stephen had my speaker tonight. Stephen had my speaker.
My neighbor, right? Like if I punched through this wall, I'd be at his house.
Yeah. He's my presenter tonight, so I told him I'd be on a little early to help him out. So.
I mean, he's usually pretty well prepared. He just got that big award. He's one of those people that could wing it and nail it.
Yes.
And
he's
my
good.
poor dog, if I talk about CLE training one more time, I think they're gonna groan. They've heard every presentation. They've heard me practice. I walk around the house giving the presentation. They can probably tell us about
that's good.
aspects. So we'll go from there.
All right.
Thank you guys again. Have a great night.
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
David, I'll see you tomorrow night.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
You too. Good luck with training tonight, Sue.
Thanks.